Welcome, everybody, to the Cover 2 podcast. My name is Nick Nenad.
I'm Jared Smith, and we have a special guest with us today. His name is
Alex Silva. Thanks, guys. It's good to be back.
You've heard Alex Silva before on this podcast. You've seen him on video. You've heard his voice. He is not a stranger to the podcast. We welcome you, Alex, for our mock draft special.
Woo! Thank you for having me. It's usually Yankees.
He's real excited, guys.
We'd be talking New York Yankees, but
Yeah, we would probably. You know what? To be honest, I think this would have been perfect timing for you to be on the show, anyways. But we probably would have been doing an MLB preview or something along the lines of baseball, considering that baseball would have already started. But unfortunately, we don't have that right now, which is kind of crazy. But also, thank God we have the NFL draft coming up, which is excited all three of us to do this podcast today. So today we're going to go through picks 1 through 17. The reason we're going to do that is because Jared's Cowboys are at 17, so we're going to fit them right into the end of today's podcast. Alex is a big fan of the Denver Broncos. They are pick 15, so we're extending it to that. And then, of course, my Cardinals have the 8th pick in the NFL
because they sucked.
I agree.
That wasn't a trade down. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, that was just. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said that.
It's fine. This is going to be a real. Jared, this is one of our most favorite podcasts of the year. Every single year.
Doubt.
Yeah,
no doubt. Yeah. If it's football and it's draft time, I feel like I'm a GM. Just a little side note: Nick and I did our own first round 1 through 32 mock draft last week, so we will both be looking at those notes and going off of that. But we completely nerded out and had breakdowns and analysis of each player and why we thought they should go to that team. So very excited to share some of those thoughts with you guys today.
Yeah, and although we have 3 teams that we're going to go over that we all like, we are going to go over the rest of the 14 teams before those and after those and so forth. So there will be some picks where we don't analyze as much because we all agree on a player that's going specifically earlier in the draft. But we will go over the picks that are a little more controversial and where we all disagree. We want to obviously start with the number 1 pick. We do actually agree on this pick. It's Joe Burrow going to the Cincinnati Bengals. But I think we can maybe talk about this. And guys, where can we see this going? Do any of us think that a trade could possibly happen here? A team trading up to get a specific player?
No.
I'm with Jared. I think no. I think the only team that has the capital to do it is the Dolphins. And in that scenario, there's a couple arguments to be made that it could be the right move. If you essentially just swap with the Dolphins, you get all those picks included. Could be worth it. But, you just don't pass on Joe Burrow. Most accurate, most prolific quarterback in college history.
I'll say that I'll agree with you on that I think the Dolphins are the only team that would trade up because they have all that draft capital. And I think they believe Tua potentially could even be a better player than Joe Burrow. So them trading up, they want to take Tua. And in some ways, I do actually believe that Tua is up there as regarded as the best quarterback on this board. Just with the injury concerns and all that, he won't be drafted. But if I was the Cincinnati Bengals GM, personally, I would have drafted Tua Tagovailoa with the number 1 pick. But I don't believe that's going to happen here.
I don't just believe it. I wholeheartedly believe that Tua is the actual better quarterback.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because of his injuries and Joe Burrow's 5,000 yards, 50 touchdown season, which is unheard of, that elevated him. If both of these quarterbacks were healthy with 0 injuries, speaking of Tua, I believe that Tua would actually go number 1.
Yeah, 100%. Because you had the whole tank for Tua movement that happened last year, if he wouldn't have had specifically that hip injury that was people were saying was Bo Jackson's injury, which is very scary to a lot of GMs and fans. I think we'd be talking about Tua going obviously number 1 and the Bengals starting a lefty quarterback next year. But we all don't believe that's going to happen. So we are going to move on to the Washington Redskins. We all agree Chase Young goes here at number 2. No really argument between any of us. Chase Young is the best non-quarterback player on the board here. And so we're all going to agree on Chase Young. And we are all going to agree on Jeff Okudah at number 3 to the Detroit Lions. once they gave away Darius Slay, it was pretty obvious they were going to go with Okudah with this pick. Now is where there's a little disagreement. The New York Giants, but not what you think. We all actually believe that the Giants will pick an offensive tackle here, but we all just disagree on which offensive tackle we will pick. So, Alex, who is the offensive tackle that you believe the New York Giants will pick, and why? Explain why you think your tackle is better.
So I'm taking Andrew Thomas out of Georgia. I think he's a better fit for the Giants in terms of the type of play style that the Giants are going to run. They're going to be a run first. When you got Saquon Barkley, you run Saquon Barkley. It's going to be more traditional run first type offense. Andrew Thomas did the same thing in Georgia. He's been doing it for 3 years. He's given up 2 sacks, I believe is the last stats I saw in his career at Georgia.
Crazy.
He wins one-on-one. He is a mauler in the running game. I think he's a complete fit. You help both your offensive weapons in Saquon Barkley get better holes, and you protect Daniel Jones at the same time. I think it's an easy fit for him.
Jared, who's your tackle?
I went with Wills from Alabama, and I think you can make an argument. I don't really know if one of these top 3 tackles are if there's that much of a gap of a difference. And so I think all of our arguments could be very valid. I picked Wills because I think he's got great hand technique. He has quick feet for being such a big guy. And kind of like what Alex said with his pick, I think that Wills is like a mauler in the run game. And I agree with Alex that when you have Saquon Barkley and a quarterback and Daniel Jones who showed flashes last year, but you still need to protect him because he's so young, you want to feed Saquon Barkley as many times as you can. So you get a tackle that loves to run block. And, like I said, you feed Saquon Barkley and you protect your young quarterback.
Yeah, I kind of don't disagree with you guys why they're going to pick a tackle here because of the run offense. And I think you don't look further than the Iowa Hawkeyes run offense that dominates some of college football headlines every single year. And that's why I'm going with Tristan Wirfs for my tackle pick. I think, anytime you got an Iowa tackle or an Iowa tight end here in this draft, they're going to go early. And so I'm going to go with Tristan Wirfs. I think he's the best tackle on the board. And I think the way they're going to run that run offense, surrounded by Saquon Barkley, go no further than an Iowa tackle to protect him and also protect Daniel Jones as well. So, so we're all going tackle pick number 4. Let's move on to the quarterback picks, and that is going to be the Miami Dolphins and Los Angeles Chargers. I think we all just kind of agreed that Tua was going to go number 5 here, correct? And
correct.
The Dolphins will not miss out on this. I've seen some mock drafts say that Justin Herbert is going to go 5 here. I think the only reason you would do that is if you were scared of Tua's injury. And I think that would be a big, big mistake for the Miami Dolphins to make.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you guys this really quick, and I'll start with you, Alex, and get your response. And I kind of already know the answer. I just want to get your reason. So with the lack of pro days and lack of actual in-person interviews, the fact that everything has to be done online, Tua has come out with, I believe, like 2 workouts that he has distributed to all 32 teams. But the fact that Tua's medical is obviously so important to his draft stock, how do you guys, does that change the Dolphins' mind at all? As far as, they can only interview him through Skype. They can't actually see him in person and have their own doctors do a medical on him. So does that change anything for you guys at all? Or are you still Tua to Miami no matter what?
Go ahead, Alex.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So for my knowledge he has those workout videos and he's doing some like fairly dynamic movements. He's got some mobility. We still don't know what would happen if he gets contacted again. Secondly, I think the bigger issue, and this, I saw a article on this earlier this week, or like yesterday or 2 days ago, that makes me almost want to put Herbert here, is he's failed 2 workout like medicals with 2 different teams. Unconfirmed, like the teams are non-responding to it, but he has 2 workouts that he's done that are not passed. Because of that information, it puts a little bit more fire to that smoke of him not going to be ready for this coming season. And if that's the case, and you're the Dolphins, why not take Herbert and have a guy who will start day 1?
Well, see, okay, here's the only problem with that is that I don't think just because he can't play this year that you don't draft him. I think that personally, I've always been a big proponent of guys at least taking 1 year behind a quarterback. Now, the Dolphins, it would be Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? So it's not the best quarterback to be behind. It's not like sitting behind Tom Brady or sitting behind Peyton Manning or someone like that, or Brett Favre in Aaron Rodgers' case. But that's why I think they still pick Tua. Jared, to answer your question, I believe that when you look at the medical situation here, the fact that they can't do it in person, yeah, it's just going to make this pick even sketchier than it already was because you don't get to see them in person and all that. But I just think, I think the Dolphins are thinking the way I'm thinking, in that Tua is a can't miss prospect, and you got to draft him whether he's going to be ready this year or next year. You got to draft him. And it's not like the Miami Dolphins are going to be Super Bowl contenders next year anyways. So let's not go crazy. Yeah.
Side question. Let's say it comes out Tua just doesn't pass medical.
Yeah.
Right? Like multiple confirmed sources, whatever. How far do you think he would slip in the draft? Do you think there's a team that's like, wow, that we're the 20th pick, never would have thought Tua would be down here. Do we just take him anyways? Because this is an injury that's never been recovered from.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, if he fails everything and it comes out that all this news about him, around the combine time being okay, yeah, he's going to drop pretty far. I'd have to look down. I've done research on a lot of these teams down below, but I haven't gone into it in depth, thinking that Tua is going to be available to anybody.
I think what would happen is, yes, Tua would fall. Now the question is,
Patriots.
Does he fall from 5 to 10, 5 to 15, 5 to the 20s?
Jared,
I think what would happen,
yeah,
a team would come back into the first round, like trade their pick to get back into the late first round to get Tua.
That's what I was going to
I think it would be a situation like that where, like, if you're the Patriots or if you're a team picking in the late teens or the 20s, and you're already looking to trade back to get more draft capital, you say, all right, who wants to come back into the first round to get Tua because he's just a dangling carrot, and you don't take him top 5, you get him 20. So I can see that type of scenario happening.
Well, could you see I think the one team that could do it is the Patriots could draft him at 23.
Lord, no. The Patriots will not get Tua. I don't care if Tua doesn't even play it down. The Patriots do not deserve to go from Tom Brady.
Well, that's not the question, though, Jared. Would they draft him, though? I think they would.
Yes, of course they would.
Yeah, of course they would. Of course they would. Yeah.
That's why I'm saying no. Crazy.
I was also going to be like a Bo Callahan situation where he just keeps falling.
I love the draft day reference. I love it.
Callahan, I love it. Yeah.
I can't do it because here's the thing, right? Tua fails his medical, as you're proposing, and he falls to the Patriots somehow, some way. The Patriots roll with Stidham and Brian Hoyer, as their quarterback 1 and 2. And then Tua gets healthy, sits out the whole year, and he's ready next year. And Bill Belichick and Tua go and win a Super Bowl, and the Patriots are right back in the spotlight. That is almost my nightmare right there. Yeah. So, no thank you.
Jared, would it be more of a nightmare for you for them to draft Tua or for them to suck all year and draft Trevor Lawrence next year?
Why? These are both bad. Can I say, is there a third option? Can I say no?
I'd rather have a quarantine another year
would have
than
to
that happen.
But it's like, no, they're both horrible. I want the Patriots to not have a solid. I want them to go like at least 5 years with like Brian Hoyer as their quarterback and not be able to get anyone. That's what I want.
I see. Now I know. Yeah, I know Alex will agree with me on this one. I want all of the Boston teams to be terrible.
Yeah,
I want the Red Sox to suck, and the Red Sox already lost Chris Sale, no matter if there's a season or not. The Bruins are just getting older and older, and the Celtics are they're close, but we don't need the Celtics anymore.
And I'm not advocating for any injuries here. I don't want guys going down. I just don't want them. I don't want free agents going to the Boston teams. I don't want. I just want them to get crappy players and feel what it's like to be miserable for the next decade.
I want them to make large financial commitments to bad players. So the Red Sox have already done that.
They
got a lot of money tied up in Chris Sale. They're still paying half of David Price's contract.
Awesome.
I'm already happy about that. But going back to I don't think Bill Belichick has like the constitution to tank. I think he will still win like 8 games next year with whoever.
They'll get that 7th spot in the AFC playoffs.
They'll have the number 1 defense. They will, they'll do something to win. They'll just have Steinem hand the ball off. I don't know what they'll do, but they'll find a way to win 6, 7, 8 games.
And let's remember back in 2011 when Tom Brady tore his ACL, Matt Castle came in and they went 11-5. So Belichick knows how to win without Brady.
Yeah, but Matt Castle, Jarrett Stidham ain't Matt Castle. Jarrett Stidham is not Matt. Matt Castle was a better quarterback than Jarrett Stidham and Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, we don't know what Jarrett Stidham is. That's the problem. Jarrett Stidham could be some gem that, of course, Bill Belichick just found.
We know who Tom Brady was.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's why I'm still scared. That's why I'm so.
I don't think he has the constitution to intentionally lose. I think he would have like a conviction and just like die if he actively tried to lose.
His son would just take over the team and win the Super Bowl next year.
Yeah, I don't
know. I could also, guys, the Raiders have 2 picks in this first round. I could also see them potentially picking Tua with their 2nd pick. If Tua is not on the board here. They're at number 19. Maybe they go with a more established player. We'll talk about that in a second, who we think they're going to pick with number 12. And then if Tua's still on the board, they go, well, screw it. We already have Derek Carr. Wouldn't hurt us to draft a guy like Tua and potentially be, the savior of that franchise. So.
All right. Yeah, let's move on. Let's get to number 6.
But Jared's gonna gasket if we don't move on from this. What number are we on right here?
Too much.
We're on 6. We're on 6. We're the Chargers.
Okay. Now this is one I know where we all disagree. Not me and Jared, but we disagree with you. So Alex, give your pick for number 6, and we will give our pick for number 6.
So I have the more, I think, traditional pick for the Chargers, and that's gonna be Justin Herbert out of Oregon. He's got all of the arm talent. He just throws the cover off the ball. It's more of a baseball analogy, but still. He's big arm. He can run the ball. He's like a Josh Allen, but more accurate than Josh Allen. His knock, though, is he doesn't have the it gene. Doesn't really know how to win, but I would actually – all those storylines came out before the end of the college season where he actually went on a really good run of winning games.
Won the Rose Bowl.
Won the Rose Bowl, So I think you give him a little more chances with that. Also, he was very limited in his offense. Like, he was a quick throw because he had a Swiss cheese offensive line. So everything was a dump off. Everything was a screen or like an RPO. So I think if you give him more traditional offense where he can, throw the ball a little bit around, throw it to the sidelines, give it up deep to Keenan Allen, you might see a little bit more explosiveness out of Justin Herbert.
Yeah. All right. Alex, you want to know another quarterback that also won the Rose Bowl at one point and was like a top 5 pick? Mark Sanchez. And he's known for being a butt fumble back. So
also with the AFC Championship 2 years in a row. Just saying.
Sam Darnold also won the Rose Bowl, Jared. So.
Okay, maybe that wasn't the best argument. I wasn't expecting that rebuttal.
Vince Young
very nice.
Won a Rose Bowl.
So in the last 3 minutes, we have somehow brought up multiple USC quarterbacks here. We brought up Matt Castle, Mark Sanchez, and Sam Darnold. What the hell's going on?
I don't know. Get us back on track and tell us who you got at number 6.
I got Jordan Love out of Utah State going to the Los Angeles Chargers. Jared and I shared a special moment off the podcast when we agreed that this pick was going.
I almost shed a tear because I thought I was the only one with this pick.
I debated between Herbert and Love, but I had a lot of, I did a lot of research on this pick. Jesus, I can't even speak. Specifically, there's my list coming into play right there. Jordan Love. Here's the reason I have him being picked. He's been compared somewhat to Patrick Mahomes, and I think this is where the Chargers are going to see. Hey, the Chiefs are in their division. We already have to deal with Patrick Mahomes. We want our own Patrick Mahomes. And they're going to pick Jordan Love. Now, Jordan Love did throw a lot of interceptions last year. He's a very risky quarterback. But in some ways, so was Patrick Mahomes. And you don't want to look at the record or a lot of those other things with these quarterbacks that play on teams that necessarily aren't competing that well. I think you look at the intangibles and the arm strength and all that stuff, and so that's where I think Jordan Love has a higher ceiling here than Justin Herbert, and I think that's why you go with him.
Yeah, no, the comparisons to Patrick Mahomes, I can see that, but let's not be naive. Let's not be dumb. He is no Patrick Mahomes, right? There is no one in the world right now. Patrick Mahomes is in a league all by himself, will more than likely be the first player in NFL history to receive a $200 million contract. I would not be surprised, right? So I see where some of the comparisons are coming from, and I did write that in my notes, but I do want to preface by saying he ain't no Patrick Mahomes, okay? Nick, you did bring up that last year in Jordan Love's senior season, he did throw a lot of interceptions, right? And I think one of the reasons was because he had a new offensive coordinator, an entire new system with new players. The previous year, Love's junior year, when he was under the same system for 2 years, he threw for 3,500 yards, 32 touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to take the blame off of him. Obviously, he's the one on the field making those decisions. But I feel like if he can get into a system where he can get comfortable, we've seen him reap the benefits of that, right? And so I think it's boom or bust with Jordan Love, to whereas Herbert, Alex pick is a little safer. Maybe you kind of know what you're getting with him a little bit more. But with Jordan Love, you have the potential of the boom prospect, that superstar, but you also have that potential of a complete bust. And, you know, this is where the scouting departments really come into play is, are you willing to take that risk with the number 6 pick after having Phillip Rivers for the last 16 years, who is ultra consistent, never missed a game, right? Are you willing to completely change your strategy and go with a guy that, you know, doesn't have that type of consistency? Or do you want a Justin Herbert who is a little more consistent? That's one of the biggest questions.
Yeah, no, it's definitely debatable, and I think it's not like both quarterback. It's not like Herbert, in my mind, is a subpar prospect here. I think he's the next quarterback off the board, to be honest. But I just think that, you know, right here you got to go with the potential, and a lot like with the Tua pick that I explained. Even though let's say he's not ready this year, he'll be ready later. Right. And unfortunately, Jordan Love won't be able to sit behind anybody, because Tyrod Taylor, I don't think is, you know, I think they're going to play Jordan Love over Tyrod Taylor here. But,
oh, really?
You know,
okay.
Yeah.
I can see Tyrod Taylor starting and Jordan Love sitting for like half the year.
Half the year. I do see a potential Broncos situation here where you have Joe Flacco start the beginning of the season, and then you move to Drew Lock later in the season. And obviously, the Broncos became a lot better after that. So Alex can attest to that.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with the Broncos analysis. Correct. What is the comparison to Patrick Mahomes? What is it? Because if it is that the fact that he's going to take shots and he's not afraid to throw it downfield, that's not good enough for me to say that this guy's a quarterback. There's a lot of Deshaun Kaiser loved to throw the ball downfield and found every free safety in the league.
Yeah.
You know, like he, you know, and so the guy is not accurate. It doesn't matter if he's got, you know, he's willing to take a shot. He's got some mock. If that's the only thing that makes it Patrick Mahomes-ish.
And the arm is good too. Not obviously compare. It's a minor comparison to Patrick Mahomes, but I don't think any of these other quarterbacks compare anywhere to Patrick Mahomes. It's that gunslinger type of quarterback style that I think is going to, you know, force the Chargers' hand here and make them choose him over, like Jared said, more of a consistent, but, you know, the ceiling is close for Justin Herbert. He's only going to get this much better, where I think Jordan Love is way up here with the comparison to Patrick Mahomes. So, yeah, and by the way, so he did throw 17 interceptions last year. I heard, I can't remember who said it, but somebody on ESPN explained that 8 of those interceptions were balls tipped at the line or wide receiver clear drops, like balls off wide receivers' hands. So a lot. So his interceptions, yes, they did rise, but it wasn't like he was just throwing it around, you know, like Jameis Winston.
YOLO balling it everywhere.
Yeah. So
Jameis Winston.
He does. Well, that's the ultimate comparison, right? Because that guy was going left-handed half those games, the way those balls were coming out. So, you know, it'll be interesting. But yeah, so we disagree on number 6. Number 7, who do you guys have at number 7? I think we all have Simmons. We all have Simmons, right?
Yeah, I got Isaiah Simmons.
I think we all have Simmons.
Yeah, the whole Left Behind by Luke Kuechly, like you got to get a do everything type linebacker. He's also not. I mean, everyone talks about the athletic, traits Isaiah Simmons has. Like he literally is the defensive Booby Miles.
Yeah.
From Friday Night Lights. Like, and he can pass on
that's a good comparison right there.
Yeah. He's also one of the more cerebral players. Like the fact that he's able to process all of these different protections and know where he needs to be in all these different positions that he plays and different styles of defense shows that if let's say he does just gets picked as a Mike linebacker, he will still succeed because he will be able to make those same plays that Luke Kuechly made of anticipating the play and, winning the game with his head, not just with his athletic traits.
Yeah, I just think here for the Panthers, who have they have a lot of needs on defense here, like you said, after the retirement of Kuechly and after losing Thomas Davis and multiple other players. I just think they go best defensive player on the board, and Isaiah Simmons can play multiple positions, so it's like the best player on the board pick here because he can do everything. So
yeah.
That's why I pick him. Jared, do you have any other comments about Simmons?
Yeah, I literally put one. Well, I put a couple things in my notes, but the biggest thing was he plays every position on defense but defensive tackle. The guy can rush off the edge if you want to. He'll cover any receiver, any tight end, running back. He'll play deep safety. The guy, he's literally. I mean, other than Chase Young, he's just a freak. And so, yeah, I have nothing else to add because the guy is, if he falls to number 7, the Panthers will be jumping for joy.
Yeah, I personally think too, especially after he ran that 40-yard dash time, where it was just such an unbelievable time for a linebacker per se, but we're saying he's not really a linebacker. I'll say this. I think the Redskins will take a look at him for number 2, potentially too. Yeah. I think they have to go Chase Young, but I bet you after they saw that 40 time, they've been checking up on Isaiah Simmons as well. But there's no way I'm going to say that you can't pass on Chase Young. Chase Young, just because Simmons is rising doesn't mean Chase Young is a worse player.
I think the only 2 players that they would trade, like not go Chase Young for, would either be a quarterback, which I would hate because I'm like fantasy football invested in Dwayne Haskins, or
I was waiting for the fantasy to come into play here.
Yeah,
I think they would take Jeffrey Okudah before they would take Isaiah Simmons. I think he is just such a. I mean, that's your corner. That's your island for however long.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the Redskins too, we didn't really analyze the pick, but man, that Montez Sweat and Chase Young potentially coming from both sides eventually.
Terrifying.
Whoo!
And then you got Payne in the middle. They have like 4 Alabama defensive linemen, don't they?
I'm not 100% sure on that, but
they have like 4. There's like 4, I think, Alabama players in their front 7. It's like Payne, Kerrigan, Ioannidis. Like,
you're right. Yeah, you're right.
So they just have, they go blood.
Enough about the Redskins.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, we all know they're not a good team, even if they get Chase Young. So, number 8, the Cardinals. All right.
I like this. I like this team.
Just,
yeah, I'll tell you, based on my mock draft, I was extremely disappointed that I wasn't able to somehow fit Isaiah Simmons under the Cardinals roster. But nonetheless, in realistic times, I think if the Cardinals do not have a chance at Isaiah Simmons here, they have to go tackle. You got to protect the investment. You got to protect Kyler Murray. A little insider here for me, just because I know a lot more about this team. I think the only reason you would pick Simmons if he's available and not a tackle is because the Cardinals tackles actually performed better than they thought last season. As bad as the Cardinals offensive line is perceived, the Cardinals offensive line not only played better than what they were supposed to, but the tackles specifically played better than they were supposed to. Justin Murray and DJ Humphries. So it's not right now. They do not need to. It's not like the situation with the Giants and a lot of these other teams we're talking about where they absolutely 100% need a tackle. The Cardinals' offensive line is okay for now, at least in my opinion, a lot of other people's opinion. And so I think that's why they go Simmons if he's available. But in my mock draft, I have them going for a tackle, and I have Jedrick Wills going to the Cardinals. He's my second off the board as far as tackles go. Who do you guys have going to the Cardinals?
I'm taking Tristan Wirfs for them because, and I have multiple reasons. One, because like you said, of the teams in like this top 10 that need a tackle, the Cardinals do have 2 tackles already. The Giants need all the offensive linemen, and the Browns just lost their left tackle, so they're going to need a tackle now. Wirfs profiles more as a right tackle because he's going to be a little bit better on the run game, and he's I think was the most athletic tackle in the combine. He ran like a 4.85 40. Just pretty nice.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the thing about Wirfs too is I'd love if the Cardinals could get Wirfs, and that's why I'm hoping the Giants go for Isaiah Simmons at number 4 personally, because you're right, Wirfs is a right tackle. In this
you
case,
could kick him inside to guard if you want to keep those tackles from last year.
No, potentially. And the other thing is here too, just with my pick, I had Wirfs going number 4, so they have to pick a tackle here.
Of course.
And unfortunately, it's going to be Wills, and he's going to have to kind of, figure it. Because DJ Humphries right now is the left tackle. Yeah. So you're not just going to sit DJ Humphries. And so, unfortunately, the Cardinals can't get Wirfs, but they still go tackle. It's fine. It won't be. It's not that big of a deal that you have a left tackle that will have to move to right.
Yes. Yeah.
Jared, what's your pick for the Cardinals?
So I went with tackle as well. I definitely agree. You protect your investment. I have Wirfs on my board, but I'm going to pass him up for Becton. Now, I may be wrong with this, but I'm still going to roll with it. And here are my reasons why. I think that I can make the argument that Becton is the most athletic tackle in the game. And I get that Wirfs ran a great 40 time for his size. Becton's 364. 364, and he ran a 5.1040. That's unheard of. A guy that is 364 pounds should not be running anything in the low 5s. It should be like closer to 6. I think he has light feet for how big he is. And because he's so athletic, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, but the Cardinals, because of the way that they run their offense and how it is, they're in the shotgun a lot of times, their tackles, their splits are a little farther than most other teams that are more of a run-heavy offense where their tackles are closer or their linemen are closer together. So because your splits are a little farther out, you're more likely to be on an island against a defensive lineman one-on-one. And I think because Becton is so athletic, it will benefit him to be in those one-on-one situations a little more than maybe some other tackles are used to. So that's why I put Becton there. Nothing against Wirfs, and I'm sure the Cardinals would love Wirfs as well. I like the fit because of his athleticism and the style of play that the Cardinals run.
The difference I have between Wirfs and Becton is Wirfs will stop the pass rush. Becton allowed 7 sacks this past year. He has the worst hands in the for an offensive line of the top 5 tackles. He has no real good technique. He is a physical freak, so he has those tools that can't be taught. However, the things that he can be taught, he hasn't learned. And if you have a different top tackle available, I don't know why you wouldn't take that one, especially one that there isn't really like a that much of a ceiling on Wirfs or a Wills or even Andrew Thomas if he was still available too.
Yeah,
I really don't like Becton.
Alex, you kind of stole the words out of my mouth with that analysis because I think Becton. I think this is one of those picks where Jared fell into the combine hype a little bit here.
Oh, I fell into the underwear Olympics hard, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, because Becton is just not better than I think the 3 that Alex and I are going to say. At least in my opinion, I think Andrew Thomas, Jedrick Wills, and Tristan Wirfs are better offensive linemen than Mekhi Becton. I just think that combine made him move up a lot like Isaiah Simmons, but Isaiah Simmons wasn't. We all expected that from him in some ways.
Isaiah Simmons also produced. It matched. The athleticism matched the tape. And I think with Becton, it's like if you look at his highlight reel, it's probably great. He's probably throwing 250-pound offensive linebackers on their back. But offensive line is in a position where you want a highlight tape. You want him to have a consistent. You want him to look the same. You want him to make the same type of moves, kind of, or like the same consistency in protecting the pass every time. You don't really need a highlight play when it comes from offensive linemen. And yes, Becton will give you he will probably pancake like Javon Clowney or something when he gets to the league. It'll be awesome. And then Clowney will have 3 sacks that game still. You know what I mean? So it's
that's if Clowney signs with a team.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's true.
But so that's my critique with Becton.
Now, I hear you.
Second
Wirfs
round
is a great pick. I mean, it's
second round you get him. That's awesome. Then you don't have to throw him in right away.
He's going in the first round. The tackle he's going to go, whether it's teens or
We'll go like the Dolphins or something with like one of their second picks or something. You know what I mean?
He's going in the first round. There's no way he makes it out of the first. No way.
Yeah. All right.
I agree with that. All right, so let's move on. Jacksonville Jaguars are at number 9. This is personally a pick that I had a lot of difficulties deciding, and I went with offensive skill position, CeeDee Lamb, going number 9 for me. Give Gardner Minshew, who's now the franchise quarterback, give him a really, really, really good receiver in CeeDee Lamb, and that's the reason I picked. They have a lot of other needs. But I think they go CeeDee Lamb here.
Yeah. This is one of those picks, like, it's hard to distinguish if it's what I would do if I were the Jags or is it what I think is going to do by the Jags. If it's what I think the Jags are going to do, I think they go Derek Brown because that follows their defensive-minded first round build from, the ball out, that fits their mantra. But I agree with you. I think offense could be where they could improve the team the most. This actually, I could actually see the Jags messing up and taking Becton here. You know what I mean? Like there's like big old offensive lineman protect Minshew, perhaps. But I think if I'm picking what the Jags will do, I think it goes Derek Brown.
Yeah, it's not a bad pick. Jared? Who you got?
Yeah, no, I think they go defensive line because the last 4 or 5 years they've gone defensive with their first overall picks. You can just book it, right? The Jags are going to have a top 10 pick and they're going to pick a defensive player, more than likely a defensive lineman. He'll be with them for a couple of years, and then just like Jalen Ramsey and some of their other stars, they'll trade him away. They traded away Calais Campbell, their other star defensive end, who's currently still on their team, and Yannick Ngakoue wants to be dealt out of there. He's already made that very clear. Their first round pick from a few years ago in Taven Bryan out of Florida, he hasn't produced. And so really when you're looking at the defensive line right now, I see a lot of holes, right? And I don't see a whole lot of worthy players on this team. So I like that pick of CeeDee Lamb because I can't tell you the last time that the Jaguars had a legit number 1 receiver. I mean, DJ Clark is really good. D.D. Westbrook's the speed guy. Marquise Lee has had some injuries. Like they have some, good, decent receivers, but they haven't had that true number 1. So I like that pick. Yeah. But Derek Brown is just he's a beast. To me, I think he's after Chase Young, the next best defensive lineman in the draft. And if you're the Jags, they kind of stay with that tone of defensive line.
Yeah, the other reason I went offense on this one is because they do have pick number 20 as well, and they could just go defense with that one. There still are some defensive players that they can pick. We're going to talk about that pick on our next podcast, but that's another reason why I went offense. I think the Jaguars still regret in some ways not having any receivers that year they were trying to get to the Super Bowl, because I think that would have made a huge difference against the Patriots in that AFC Championship game. Yeah, I forget what year that was.
That was with Blake Bortles.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. And maybe Blake Bortles would have threw it over everybody's head, right? But like, it's better than Marquise Lee and whoever the hell else they had on that team. That was
I don't even think they had DJ Clark at that time. I think it was Marquise Lee.
D.D. and Marquise Lee.
I don't think they had D.D. Westbrook either. That was a while ago. I think that's when.
That was 2017, I think.
Yeah, 2017. It's a while ago.
D.D. was drafted in 17. So he might have been a rookie.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But see, awful.
They need help.
Need a guy. They need a guy. Okay, we all agree with the Browns' number 10 pick. We've kind of explained what we think about the tackles. So by process of elimination, everybody just kind of say their tackle. I'm going Andrew Thomas with this pick. Alex?
I'm going Jared Wills. He's my third best tackle.
Jared, who are you going with?
And I got Wirfs from Iowa. I mean, the Browns, it's like tackle, no brainer. Don't overthink it.
100%. Like, I think this might be the one pick they have to pick an offensive tackle, or they're just the idiotic. Like,
know what's gonna happen? Not to pick an offensive tackle.
They're gonna take like Henry Ruggs or something.
Right. We've talked about it so much, and yeah, right.
Not even the second best receiver, but he's fast.
Because Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry aren't enough. They need another receiver. They're going to screw it up. It's the Browns. So we're talking about what they should do, but what they're going to do is take a non-offensive tackle, and Baker Mayfield is going to be pretty pissed, probably.
Yeah, watch, they'll pick Justin Herbert. They'll just say screw it. Okay, moving on to pick number 11, the Jets. Jared, who do you have going to the Jets?
This is CeeDee Lamb right here, and I think he's the best receiver overall. Most of the draft process, I actually had Jerry Jeudy as number 1. You're kind of just enamored by his tape and his game speed. He just breaks away from defenders. But I think when you really put on the CeeDee Lamb tape, you see that his route running is a little better than Jerry Jeudy. Maybe he's not as fast. He's a better 50-50 ball catcher. And for Sam Darnold, I think here the Jets, if there were an offensive lineman that were to fall, and the 3 that we've already projected to go, I think the Jets go offensive line. But since there's not, I think you take the best receiver. The Jets' best receiver from last year, Robbie Anderson, is gone. I believe he went to Carolina. And so you need a threat, right? Le'Veon Bell last year did absolutely nothing. And if you don't have receivers on the outside, I don't see how Le'Veon Bell has a better year this year. You need to get more weapons. And I think CeeDee Lamb would be a great pick here.
Yeah, to go along with Jared, I got CeeDee Lamb as well. I agree with your take that like offensive line might be the bigger need, but I think in their mindset that they invested so much in offensive line and free agency that they've allowed themselves the freedom to go for a more flashy pick. They ate their vegetables in free agency, got their offensive line, but now they want to get CeeDee Lamb. But I agree with you that he's
time for dessert.
I think in terms of comparing him to Jeudy, who I think most of us have as like the second best receiver, he's more physical throughout the route. Like he doesn't get pushed off his route, and he faced press most of his college career. Whereas Jeudy like almost never faced press coverage, and he can get bounced around a little bit. He's a little bit slighter, he's a little bit smaller, not as long, but is still a tremendous receiver, and that's.
Yeah, so I got Jeudy didn't face press coverage because if you lose against him, bye-bye.
Yeah. He also played in the slot a lot, too, for Jeudy.
Which is smart on the offensive part. Put him in the slot, and he's got a two-way go. So, sorry, Nick, I didn't mean to jump in there, but I think that's why there wasn't a whole lot of press coverage, because you lose and touchdown.
So I definitely thought about wide receiver and offensive tackle here, but then when I saw Derek Brown still available in my mock draft, I'm going to go with the Jets picking Derek Brown here. I think they've kind of failed on a lot of their defensive lineman picks, and they want that defense to be really, really good. I think they can find wide receivers and tackles later in the draft if they want to do that. But I think with Derek Brown sitting on the board here, that's the reason I have the Jets picking Derek Brown. Derek Brown, I think, is one of the best defensive players in this draft. And so I think the Jets will look at that and say, hey, we can't miss out on this guy. And we can draft a wide receiver a little bit later. I could also see the Jets potentially trading this pick as well.
That actually might be the smartest thing they do.
Yeah, because
I mean, they got Quinnen Williams last year with their 3rd overall, right, as a defensive tackle, defensive line. So it's like you're going back-to-back years at almost the same position. I mean, it's not a bad thing. Like, I would hate to be an offensive lineman going up against that, but I don't know.
It's a little bit like the 49ers, scenario where they just kept drafting defensive tackles. Again, it's not necessarily that this is the perfect fit. I think Quinnen Williams, he underperformed a little bit last year, so this might be somewhat of an insurance policy as well. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with a stout defensive line here, and I just think because he's on the board, you gotta go with Derek Brown. I don't think I don't think it's the best pick. It's more of what I think the Jets are gonna do.
Fair.
So there you go. Number 12 is the Raiders. I have the Raiders going wide receiver Jerry Jeudy here to hook up as a replacement for Amari Cooper. Who obviously went to the Cowboys a couple years ago. So I got Jeudy going. I think Judy's the second best wide receiver off the board here. I had CeeDee Lamb obviously going to the Jaguars. So I got Jeudy going to the Raiders.
Yeah, I got Jeudy as well. If you look at the Raiders depth chart right now, it has Zay Jones as their as their number one receiver.
Is that the guy that ran naked throughout his hallway and jumped through a window?
Yep. So they need receivers in the worst way.
Whoa. What is this? I've not heard of this.
What?
Jared, we talked about it on the podcast a couple of years ago, but Zay Jones had some, I don't know what it was. It probably had to do with drugs, but he had
he mixed prescriptions and drank.
Yeah.
And then just started running around a hotel room.
Turns
naked.
out that's not the best thing to do, huh?
There was blood everywhere, and his brother found
it. Jumped through a window. Yeah.
I don't know why I don't remember that. I don't know how I would forget that.
It's like a video of it too. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I'm looking at their depth chart right now, and they've got Tyrell Williams, who came over from the Chargers. He's kind of a bigger deep threat guy. Zay Jones. They acquired Nelson Aguilar in free agency, which, big whoop. And Hunter Renfrow, who's a slot guy from Clemson, right? So
they need number one. They need number
How is Nelson Aguilar not a corner with all the drops he has?
I heard what you guys are saying with Jerry Jeudy. Speedster, and Oakland loves speed guys. It doesn't matter what position it is, whether it's corner, linebacker. They love to have speed on your team, which in today's football you need. But going back, 5-10 years ago, when the game was a little different than what it is now, the Raiders just love speed. Like if you run a 4-3-5, they're probably going to draft you. They take chances on guys with speed, and so obviously Jerry Jeudy is worthy of this pick, but it almost just kind of fits what the Raiders like to do.
This could be a pick here too. If Jeudy goes before this pick, I think they might go Ruggs as well. To your point, Jerry, like you're saying, the speed.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. I as well as I think Gruden
we
would
know
like.
Why you would like that out.
I think the Gruden would like to say the name Ruggs like over and over again. I just personally think he would like to say the word Ruggs.
I can just see it right now.
Yeah.
Knock on wood for Ruggs.
Yeah.
He would definitely have some like Henry III type jokes, because isn't he Henry Ruggs III?
Yeah, Ruggs III. Yeah, Ruggs III.
Yeah.
He would love some sort of
But so in my opinion, no matter what, the Raiders are going with an Alabama wide receiver here with this pick.
Fair.
Who do you guys have the Raiders go with here?
Oh no,
Jeudy. I got Jeudy.
Oh, perfect. Okay. I didn't hear you. Okay, number
too much time on that pick. Yes, Jeudy.
Number 13. I have Ruggs going to the 49ers. This might be a little shocking of a pick, but I think they're going to try to hook up Jimmy Garoppolo, move that offense forward even more. I think they could go some other positions here, and that's why I'll turn the pick to you. But I got them going offense. I think if Ruggs is still on the board, they got to take him.
Jared.
So I think this is, the 49ers coming off the Super Bowl win. I know I said this off air, but it is so rare for a Super Bowl loss. It's so rare for a team to get to the Super Bowl and then have a pick at number 13. Usually you're picking at 31 or 32. So this is such a luxury pick for a team that is almost complete and doesn't have that many holes, right? So you're right. I can see a Henry Ruggs to help out Jimmy Garoppolo and give them some type of deep threat, because they don't have that at all. I went with safety Xavier McKinley from Alabama, and the main reason was because the 49ers' two safeties in the last 2 years have ended up on the IR for more than half the year. So availability is the best ability, and if you can't be on the field, obviously that's going to hurt your team. And even though the 49ers were able to overcome that with their good depth, I think Xavier McKinley is my best safety on the board. And so the fact that they can take this luxury pick and just pick their best player, I would take McKinley here to kind of shore up that secondary as that kind of a guy who can do a little bit of everything, play coverage, come up and play against the run. So I think that would be a good pick for them.
So first I'm going to kind of say why I don't think your picks will go, and then I'll say mine. I don't think they're going to go safety. You don't, in the top 15, you don't take a pick as a insurance blanket for a position that's not even that valuable. That's in terms of like a thing. Corner. Okay, I'm saying in terms of in GMs, it's like quarterback, defensive end, corner, offensive line. Like those are the premier positions. Safeties, you can fill those spots in with the free agency, right? So I don't think they go safety, especially if, let's say, the other safeties they have on the team or are healthy. He would just be the third safety. So you don't just get.
They just haven't proven to be healthy, and I think he's a better player than what they have right now. Anyway, I think he's a day one starter.
Okay. I don't think you take a depth pick at this position. I also don't think they go offense in receiver, especially Henry Ruggs, who does not do run blocking. And if they're going to stick with the same offensive scheme they had last year, being a run, they want guys who are going to be physical, can at least put their hands on a DB. So I think what they go instead is they go corner CJ Henderson. They take the second best corner off the board, because if you look across from Richard Sherman, there's no one there. And this instantly beefs up their defense to a whole nother echelon. And CJ Henderson is the most athletic, like freakishly athletic corner, smoothest hips, great, best feet, can track the ball in the air, and he likes to like jump routes in the same way that Richard Sherman does. So if they want him to learn under Sherman, this is like the best situation as well for him. So I think that pick fits like the value of the pick, and the bigger need they have in their defense besides a third safety is to have a number 2 corner.
I agree with you that CJ Henderson is the best corner in this draft. But just to defend my pick one more time, I think when they traded for Emmanuel Sanders, that showed that they thought they needed one more wide receiver. So that's another reason why I'm going Ruggs here, is that I get that he might not be the best, run blocker or whatever, but I think that if they would, Emmanuel Sanders, I remember when we did our Super Bowl preview, Jared and I said Emmanuel Sanders needs to do something, and he didn't do anything during the Super Bowl. Yeah. So, it was – I think that they're looking for the X factor, and yes, the luxury of having the number 13 pick after winning a Super Bowl, you go with that thing that's going to put you over the top, and I just think that's wide receiver rather than a DB here. I think their defense is awesome, and I don't think they need to – I think with this early of a pick, a guy like Ruggs still on the board – go with him. You shouldn't have this pick, so pick a guy that you shouldn't have in some ways.
I think I agree. They do need a number 2 receiver who will be a deep threat. I think instead of getting Henry Ruggs at 13, which I think is a reach for Ruggs, I don't think he's that great. You can get Brandon Ayuk with your second pick in the draft in the first round.
He's a great pick. Yeah.
No, there's a couple other speed option type guys that you can take later in the first, second round, and that way you're not passing on. I think is a tremendous talent in CJ Henderson.
Yeah.
So I just don't like Henry Ruggs because so if we all like Henry,
yeah, you really don't like Henry Ruggs.
Let's go to Henry Ruggs here. If Henry Ruggs is this phenom receiver, the number 3 receiver in the draft, and he's a speed threat, deep down threat, why do you only have 12 catches of 20 yards or more in his career at Alabama?
Because he had Jerry Jeudy and Smith and whoever was on the team 2 years ago. I mean, there's one football to go around.
You're telling me you can't scheme a deep threat guy to deep threat throws?
Well, the thing is, Jerry Jeudy I think Jerry Jeudy kind of served as somewhat of a deep threat guy as well. So
but he was the deep threat guy before Ruggs. And
I'm just concerned as a guy, if it's a guy who is this talented, why is he the 3rd best receiver on his team?
Because it's Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama's different. It's the same with Clemson too. There's just some guys that get lost in the shuffle here. I mean, here's the thing: you can look at a lot of positions here. If you look at Clemson, for example, next year, I'm gonna go. This is kind of random, but their quarterbacks are Trevor Lawrence and the number 1 phenom quarterback that's been talked about since he was in 8th grade. Like they have the 2 best quarterbacks in college football next year on their rosters. So sometimes these guys just get lost in the shuffle. And I think that's where people are seeing the potential of Ruggs rather than his production. It's a lot like the Jordan Love pick in some ways, right? There's a lot of, Jordan Love gets lost in the shuffle because he plays at Utah State, who nobody in the world cares about. Nobody cares about Utah State.
It's also concerns me why you throwing 17 interceptions in the Mountain West.
But I explained some of those interceptions were.
I know. I'm just saying. Yeah. I'm just saying.
Okay. Well, you obviously hate Henry Ruggs, so it's fine.
Because he's getting mocked to the Broncos so often, and I'm just
that's we know that's the thing, but we want you to explain yourself. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the Bucks here. Everybody gave their pick to 49ers, right? I'm losing track of all this.
Yeah, I didn't see Jay. Yeah.
Okay. So number 14 for the Bucks, Jared, who do you have go into Tom Brady's team?
I've got an offensive tackle. This is Andrew Thomas right here. And your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh goals are to protect Tom Brady. 100%. Now, the Bucs have a decent offensive line, but you do everything in your power. If Andrew Thomas is still here from Georgia, I think you plug him in right away, and he can be your right or left tackle. And so, yeah, they could go who knows? They could go receiver. They could definitely go defense. They could go with another corner. In my draft, C.J. Henderson, who Alex loves, is still available. Potentially see that, but I think you do whatever you can to keep Tom Brady upright and healthy. And we've seen that Tom Brady can carry teams on his back. So, no doubt, offensive tackle, no question.
I'm gonna go linebacker here. I'm gonna go Clavon Chason from LSU. He's a pass rusher. The Buccaneers need a pass rusher. Also, think about this too. I think this guy is a little underrated here as pass rusher because he tore his ACL in 2018. He still played awesome last year, but think about with a fully healthy knee, how dangerous Chason can be. He'll now be technically fully recovered now from this ACL. Although you can play on an ACL in 6-7 months, you're not fully healthy. We've seen this with a lot of players in all sports. And I think now that he's fully healthy, he is one of the more underrated defensive players in this draft. And I think the Buccaneers will take him. The reason I don't think they go offensive lineman here is because number one, their offensive line is good enough. And number two, I think they do just want to shore up that defense as well here with this pick, and they'll go with the underrated Clavon Chason here. Alex, I know you don't agree with me on that pick. Who do you have?
I have an offensive tackle as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Bucs have been given a very unique opportunity to have the GOAT for 2 years, so they're going to do a win now type pick, and that's going to be protect Tom Brady. He already has the weapon, so you don't need to go out and get a receiver. Or if it was a different situation, I can see him going and get a receiver to make sure Tom Brady's happy. But they have all the receivers you could ever want.
Yeah.
So I think I'm taking Josh Jones out of Houston.
Oh.
He's kind of on that second tier of offensive linemen. You can put him in at tackle, you can put him in at guard because, like Jared said, their line is pretty solid already. So they don't need to go for one specific type of offense. He's kind of he'll move up and down the line kind of a player, and I think that's gonna be a super valuable, create some depth for Tom Brady, and then they can go beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
I don't think the Patriots make it the Super Bowl next year,
I don't
but
think
yeah, it's an interesting pick, Alex, because I don't know. I get what you're saying where he goes, he can play all the positions, but I don't know. I think they're in the position here where they're drafting a lot like the 49ers, where they technically shouldn't be because they got Tom Brady and they're going to be contenders now. So I don't know if they pick a depth guy here. I'm just saying. I think with Jared's pick, he still had Andrew Thomas on the board. So that's why
I love that pick. I don't think he'll be there. Is for my
100%.
Yeah,
for sure. Okay.
Yeah, I don't agree with you either on the defense too. I can see them going it's.
Okay, so let's move to the Denver Broncos, and that is a team that Alex Silva has been waiting for this whole podcast to talk about, and has disagreed with us on every single which way we were going to draft in this. So, Alex, as you finish your beer, take it away. What do you want the Broncos to do, and what do you think they'll do?
So what I want the Broncos to do is to go corner. I want them to take Christian Fulton out of LSU. I think he's the most complete corner in terms of he can play the slot, he can play outside, he does a lot of things right. He's not much of a jump the route guy, so you're not going to see him get exposed that often. He's extremely consistent. No, he doesn't have the athletic traits of a CJ Henderson or Jeff Okudah, but I think he is just a rock solid corner that you can throw in, especially after the loss of Chris Harris in the past season. And I think that's their biggest need right now. I think that makes their team the best. I know a lot of people want them to take a receiver. Courtland Sutton's not a deep threat. I think you can take a deep threat later in the draft.
Jared, who do you got the Denver Broncos picking here?
I'm going to start this off by saying I'm really glad that Alex and I aren't together right now. We've already discussed this, and he already knows who I'm going to say, but it's like I can just tell that he really wants to punch me in the face with this pick. So I'm glad that we are, I'm at my house and he's at his. But I'm going with Henry Ruggs right here, and we've I've discussed this with Alex, but Nick, and for the viewers here, here's the thing. I can't argue with Denver going with a corner because you're right. You lose Chris Harris, who was such a versatile threat. He could play in the slot, which is where he excelled. He could also play outside. He covered the other team's best receiver, right? And that is a big loss. He also went to a division rival with the Chargers. The Broncos did trade for A.J. Bouye from Jacksonville, who's a solid corner, but I wouldn't say that he's had the career of a Chris Harris. So to get another corner opposite A.J. Bouye is totally understandable. Here's my thing. When you have Drew Lock, who will be entering his first full year as a starter, you need to surround him with all the talent in the world. Now, you've got Phillip Lindsay at running back. You signed Melvin Gordon, who, could be a nice combo to Phillip Lindsay. But as far as a receiving threat, you have Noah Fant at the tight end position, who is very athletic for a tight end, and Cortland Sutton. And that's it. I'm currently looking at the Broncos depth chart. Their opposite receiver of Cortland Sutton is Tim Patrick. Couldn't tell you who the guy is, where he went to college,
Number 11,
or if he's ever had a reception in the NFL. Their next receiver is Deshaun Hamilton, who I believe was drafted out of Penn State in 2018. Heard of him, but has really done nothing in his NFL career. And then after that is Deontay Spencer, who, once again, don't feel has done much throughout his NFL career. What I'm trying to say is they need another receiver, whether it's a speed guy like Henry Ruggs, who I think is just the next best receiver at this point, at least in my draft, but someone to complement Cortland Sutton and to give Drew Lock a deep threat because he does have a nice arm. And I would like to see them be able to, expose defenses deep. So I get Alex isn't going to agree with this pick at all, but I like it from a speed threat and just give your young quarterback a third receiving option.
I see. I like that pick, Jared. I just have picked Ruggs in this draft so far. I'm going offensive line here. I'm going to go Mekhi Becton going to the Denver Broncos. I think he's the best. Look at Alex's face. Mekhi Becton, he's the best tackle off the board, and I think you got to protect Drew Lock. The Garrett Bowles situation is a failed situation, and I think you got to go with. You got to go with Mekhi Becton here. And you got to help Drew Lock. Drew Lock, I personally believe Drew Lock I did not think coming out of the draft he was very good as a quarterback last year. But after he performed last year for the Broncos, like I mentioned when they did switch to him, I do think he's the future of your guys' franchise. So I'm going to go with Becton here and pick a tackle for him.
I don't mind the wanting to take a tackle position. It's just you guys got to pick the two players that I'm so anti the hype for them.
Yeah.
For my team, it's frustrating. Yeah. It makes me think we're not actually friends.
I love you. I'm trying to help your team right now. I'm trying to give them offense of weapons to score.
Also,
points.
I don't think Garrett Bowles is a failed yet. I think his first year in the league, he did really well.
Yes.
But he was at right tackle. I think, but then last year they pushed him to left tackle. And he did do poorly. I think they keep him at right tackle. He is a very valuable piece. You bring the offensive line back to
the guy gets 3 holding penalties a game.
It's very aggressive.
It's not good, is what it is.
But the reason I called it a failed situation is because of what you explained. They moved him over to left tackle and he did worse. He just is not. And Jawan James isn't the best either. So I think it's similar to the Cardinals situation here, where you just have to pick a tackle and hope that one of them figures it out, right? And that one of them can protect Drew Lock, right? And unfortunately, I wish this could be Andrew Thomas or somebody like that, but it's just Becton's the last guy.
Yeah, and I think when I did was going through the mock drafts when the offseason first started and they hadn't lost Chris Harris yet.
Yeah,
I was I can see them getting Tristan Wirfs. No one really knows him yet. He's everyone's big on the other guys, but now Tristan Wirfs, after the combine, he shot through the roof. I'm he's just not going to be there. So I think my dream scenario is a Tristan Wirfs or a Andrew Thomas. That would be, hallelujah. I just don't think it.
Yeah. I feel you on that. I want Isaiah Thomas, or I want Isaiah
Simmons.
Thomas, Isaiah Simmons on the Cardinals, but I think he's gonna get picked before. Unfortunately, I thought he was gonna be our sneaky little, hey, let's pick this guy and shock everybody, but now he's gonna get picked number 1 or whatever. So we'll see. Okay, so moving on from the Broncos, I think did we all agree on DB here for the Falcons?
I think me and you did.
Okay.
Jared's got. I think he has a nose tackle here.
I have.
Yeah, I've got Kinlaw.
Okay, real quick, I have C.J. Henderson. I haven't picked a DB off the board yet, so I got C.J. Henderson dropping. Once they got rid of Desmond Trufant, you have to pick a corner here. It's a lot like the Lions. Alex, who did you have again?
I had Trayvon Diggs. He's like my 4th best corner. Okay. I think he's long. He's a lockdown corner. Fits Trufant's play style. So.
Okay, and then so Jared, you disagree. Who do you have going?
I've got Kinlaw from South Carolina. I think he's the 2nd best defensive tackle in the draft, and I think he's gaining a lot of steam. Some of them are saying that he might even be better than Derek Brown. And I can't argue with the corner pick right now because after you lose Trufant, their top 2 corners are Jordan Miller and Isaiah Oliver. That's not a good thing if you're an Atlanta Falcons team right now. So yes, you do need a corner. My mindset has just always been that you got to have defensive guys that can get out to the quarterback too. And to pair Kinlaw with Grady Jarrett, who just signed an extension, and I think he's a really underrated tackle that not many people talk about, but he's a star and a stud. To get those two and that inside pressure on quarterbacks, I think would be huge. And let's not forget that Atlanta plays in a division where you're going up against Drew Brees twice a year and now Tom Brady. And so you need to be able to get pressure on those quarterbacks or they're going to eat you alive. So I can't disagree with your picks. Kinlaw was still on my board, and I think he's the next best available player. So yeah, that's why I went there.
All right. Yeah, I actually don't. I don't hate that pick either. And the fact that Kinlaw is going to last that long is amazing in this draft that we somehow.
Well, actually, you know what? I kind of take that back because I'm looking at my draft right now, and I know the Cowboys are coming up next. C.J. Henderson, who I have pegged going to the Cowboys, I could see them if C.J. Henderson is still on the board. And the way that Alex obviously has already talked about him, it's for the Falcons. It's like in that scenario, it's C.J. Henderson and then probably Javon Kinlaw. So I think either or corner or defensive line, but I think it's definitely defense. Like there's no way they go offense.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, no, they definitely don't need. I think their offense that was weird last year. Their offense actually started to perform a little bit at the end of the season. But I think they're still – Matt Ryan obviously is overrated because I think Kyle Shanahan helped him out a lot. But I think that offense is fine. Still got Julio Jones. You still got, all right. So, Jared, take it away. It's your pick. It's the Cowboys. Who do they go with here?
Yeah, I think they go with corner because, like I said, C.J. Henderson is there. And realistically, what do I see happening now after kind of thinking about it? And I did this draft last week. But I think that Henderson does go to the Falcons, or even before that, I think it will be a complete shock for him to be here at 17. But when I did this mock, I have Henderson here. He replaces Byron Jones, who was their number 1 corner and a lockdown guy. Now, Byron Jones wasn't the guy that would get interceptions or turnovers, but he was very good in coverage and usually limited the other team's best receiver. So, I don't need to do the analysis on Henderson because Alex already did a great job of that, but he's obviously freakishly athletic. Will be one of the best athletes on the field and will be day one the Cowboys' best corner. So that's almost like a dream scenario, I think, for the Cowboys in this situation.
So real quick, Jared, I have Christian Fulton going to the Cowboys here. Is that who you probably would pick now that you're kind of mixing around your mock draft?
Yeah, I think you can put Fulton, you can put Diggs from Alabama.
Yeah.
I think those guys are kind of on the same level. So they definitely need corner help right there. And yeah, any of those next, third, fourth corners, I can easily see the Cowboys taking.
Yeah.
So you stick. That was gonna be my question too. Is if Henderson's in there, who they go with? So you're sticking with corner.
I would stick corner, and for this one reason only, because they signed HaHa Clinton-Dix in free agency, who will be their other safety opposite Xavier Woods. If they didn't do that, then I would think about a safety and either Grant Delpit or Xavier McKinley if he were on the board. But because they have Kyle Clinton-Dix who can at least be a bridge, I think corner is the more pressing need right now.
It is amazing how somehow the Cowboys, with all the extensions they've made and all this talk about what's going on, they're somehow like this pick is just going to be like their last need on defense. Like, oh, we just need a corner. All right, let's pick a corner. Like they still have every. I don't know how they do this every single year. It's amazing to me.
I think they need defensive line help or depth opposite DeMarcus Lawrence. I think their linebacking core, as far as defense goes, is probably their most solid. But yeah, they have holes because they couldn't pay Byron. You can't pay everyone, obviously, and so Byron Jones left for more money, and good for him. But yeah, I could see either corner, defensive line, or I know that Alex is going to go with another secondary player, and I'm not going to be mad about it, but I would say it's not as of a pressing need as corner right now.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to go with. I'm taking a safety, Xavier McKinney. I saw it. I think I made this pick before HaHa was taken or it was signed. But I'm going to defend it anyways. I think I think he can also be a guy that you can move around a little bit in the box. So I know Sean Lee's getting up there in age. So instead of, you can kind of pull him into the box, cover a tight end or cover running back out. He can be kind of one of those, I forgot what the term is for him, but just an in the box safety and can cover someone out of the backfield. You can get a little more creative with Xavier McKinney. But I mean, if CJ Henderson's there, yeah, they obviously take him. If one of those top flight corners there, I think you take him. I think in my draft, I value corners a lot more. And so I think that's always like, if that hole's there, because you always need like 3 nowadays.
Oh,
so
of course. And you need 4 or 5 corners in today's football.
Yeah. So my draft list is already depleted of a lot of the top corner talent. So I think they go Xavier McKinney to fill a slot there.
Gotcha. And then so you did say that pick was made before Clinton Dix. Do you have another guy that, if, let's say, since you don't necessarily think that's 100% the pick, who would you go with besides McKinney?
I think on because I still have Javon Kinlaw, and how Jared said that there's still some defensive line needs. I can see that being the pick there. I think that would be a huge addition. Get a little interior pass rush.
Gotcha. Who is the Cowboys' second corner right now?
So they've got Chidobe Awuzie and Jordan Lewis.
Okay,
and
that's not bad. Okay, yeah.
So, and they have Anthony Brown as well, who is the only cornerback on their roster signed past next year. So
yeah,
Jordan Lewis is a slot guy. Not that he can't play outside; he's not that big and better in the slot. And then Awuzie had somewhat of a down year last year, and probably their best corner. But in my opinion, he's the number 2 guy. I don't think he's ever going to be a number. So, I definitely can see it. Like if they got Kinlaw, I'm gonna be happy. If they got Henderson, I'm gonna be happy.
Yeah.
It's like I don't as much as like a receiver, something like that. The only position that I would like see because they haven't had a good win in his prime, and I know that Mike McCarthy tight ends a little more than Garrett and the old regime did. But I think anywhere on defense I'm going to be happy.
Gotcha. All right. Well, so that finishes our part 1 of our NFL mock draft special here. We're going to be moving to next week. We're going to be doing picks 18 through 32 in the first round, and also examining the rest of the draft and some other surprise picks we might think are going to happen, or other quarterbacks and stuff like that. But this was fun, guys. I enjoyed this. I always enjoy the NFL draft picks. Alex, if you're available next week to do it, obviously come back on, please.
Yeah, I'd love to be here. There's a really good chance I will be. So
awesome. I love it.
Really quick, we didn't get a chance to talk. Christian McCaffrey signed an extension with the Carolina Panthers. He is now the highest paid running back, averaging $16 million a year. Quickly, Alex, your thoughts on McCaffrey getting paid?
I think he deserves to be the highest paid running back in the league. He just passes Zeke, and I think he does more than Zeke does for their offense. So I think he deserves to be I think he's the most productive running back. He was the number 1 fantasy player, like in terms of yards and touchdowns and all that stuff, by like 100 points over any quarterback. So yeah, he's a big positive for the Panthers, and they want to keep him for whoever the quarterback's going to be in the future.
Yeah, I kind of echo what you said. He's more of a running back. He's like a running back wide receiver, but he's just as good at both. So
yeah,
the fact that he got paid $18 million a year, I believe that's what the statistic, right? What was it?
16,
was it 16? 16. It makes sense, right? I think we're going to see a lot of wide receivers getting paid 18, 19, 20 million a year. I think a guy that's in the middle of that should be paid in the middle of what a lot of the top running backs are and the top wide receivers. Plus, he's a model football player. He's a model citizen. He's kind of the guy they're going to build their franchise around. I don't see any problem with this. And that Panthers offense is kind of sneaky good next year now that they've locked down McCaffrey, and he'll be focused 100% on that, on the Panthers, instead of maybe thinking about going somewhere elsewhere. So, Jared, what did you think about McCaffrey signing?
No, I can't argue with that. And McCaffrey is the more athletic running back. And I think the thing is the Panthers just use his skill set maybe a little better than the Cowboys do. Obviously, with Ezekiel Elliott, he's more of a bruiser. Ezekiel Elliott can catch the ball out of the backfield, but, the Cowboys just weren't using him that much. But no, Christian McCaffrey he's an absolute stud. He can do everything for you between the tackles, outside, catch the ball anywhere. He's basically a receiver that also is just one of the best running backs in the league. So props to him for signing that contract. The one thing I will say is if I'm McCaffrey, I hope that he has some type of language in the contract to where if the Panthers aren't, improving and their arrow isn't pointing up in the next 2 years, that he has an opportunity to get traded or leave the team, because he is in the prime of his career. And I would hate to see that wasted because, the Panthers are rebuilding for the next 3 or 4 years. It's almost like Mike Trout with the Angels, right? It's like you're loyal to a team, but you also want that team to improve and you want to start winning. Right. And the Panthers have not really won since McCaffrey has been there. So.
Yeah. The other thing about McCaffrey, too, is they use him a lot. Like, talk about the prime of his career. He's being used a lot more than a lot of other running backs have in the NFL right now. So
he doesn't come off the field.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I think he really needs to, make sure. And I think that's one of the reasons they got a guy like Bridgewater and they're actually trying. I think they know that they don't have McCaffrey if they don't try. Essentially, they would have traded him in the next year or two and just started a complete rebuild, which would have really hurt our friend Ryan Johnson's feelings, which don't matter.
I loved it.
Yes.
Nick, how much time do we have left, or do we got to go?
We pretty much have to go. I think those topics that we were going to discuss, we'll just move to the podcast next week because I think they still fit and they will still be evergreen. But we're a little long on this one, so we'll just move to next week. Yeah. Okay. Again, so this is part 1. Part 2. Will be next week at some point. This will all be done before the NFL draft. We cannot wait. And once again, Alex, thanks again for being with us today. You provided a lot of great analysis.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'll see you guys next week.
For Alex's sake, let's hope Henry Ruggs or Mekhi Becton do not go to the Broncos, or he might be crying on the post-draft review.
You will see a TV broken, a remote control broken. And a lot of alcohol consumed if either of those things happen.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Once again, I'm Nick Nenad.
I'm Jared Smith.
And I'm Alex visiting.
Yes. And this has been the Cover 2 podcast. See you guys next week.